Between 1716 and 1722, the Atlantic became a place where no one was safe. Because every voyage risked pirate cannon, hurricanes, disease, betrayal, or the gallows. And even the outlaws who ruled the sea eventually discovered that the Black Flag led not to limitless treasure, but to a slow death in an ocean that swallowed merchant, sailor, and pirate alike. Enjoy the video, and don't forget to subscribe. Trace your finger along the map from the Bahamas to Madagascar, and imagine the smell of rotting oak, boiling pine tar, damp hemp rigging, stale bilge water, burning slow match, and sulfur drifting across the Caribbean as snapping canvas echoed above gray waves. Picture the years between 1716 and 1722, when the Golden Age of Piracy reached its deadliest peak, and no one sailing the Atlantic could feel completely safe. Merchant captains feared black flags appearing beyond the horizon. Naval officers hunted elusive raiders through thousands of miles of open sea. Fishermen vanished without explanation, and isolated coastal settlements prepared for sudden attacks. Even heavily armed merchantmen carrying 20 or more bronze cannon were vulnerable, cast from an alloy containing roughly 88% copper and 10% tin. Each cannon fired iron round shot, propelled by black powder composed of 75% saltpeter, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur. The expanding gases launched projectiles capable of smashing thick oak planking, while lethal splinters ripped through crowded gun decks with devastating effect. Pirate sloops, often measuring 70 to 90 feet along the keel with pronounced tumble home, sturdy oak futtocks, and freshly caulked seams sealed during careful careening, relied on speed rather than size. Crews governed by articles of agreement could overwhelm far larger ships within minutes, turning every voyage into a gamble where survival depended as much on luck as seamanship. The greatest danger often appeared long before a single cannon fired. Pirate lookouts, perched high in the tops, could identify a distant sail hours before merchant crews noticed the approaching threat. Fast sloops and brigantines exploited favorable winds, while shallow drafts allowed them to navigate reefs, sandbars, and narrow channels that heavier warships avoided. Merchant captains frequently overloaded their vessels with sugar, tobacco, indigo, silver, or spices, reducing speed and making escape nearly impossible. Once within range, pirates usually fired only a few carefully aimed broadsides. Their objective was not to sink valuable prizes, but to destroy masts, sever standing rigging, and shatter the steering gear. Iron round shot punched through oak hulls, chain shot sliced hemp shrouds, and grape shot swept exposed decks with hundreds of lead balls. Thick smoke from burning black powder reduced visibility until sailors could barely distinguish friend from enemy. As the distance closed, grappling hooks bit into weathered railings, heavy boarding planks crashed across the gap, and men armed with cutlasses, boarding axes, pistols, and pikes surged forward. In those violent moments, wealthy merchants, ordinary sailors, passengers, and even experienced naval veterans discovered that rank, fortune, and reputation offered little protection once pirates gained the deck. Life did not become safe, even after surrender. Pirates searched every compartment with astonishing efficiency, breaking open sea chests, cutting apart cargo bales, and prying loose hidden compartments beneath cabin floors where captains concealed coin, navigation papers, or jewels. Valuable instruments such as brass quadrants, octants, compasses, and chronometers were seized alongside barrels of powder, coils of hemp rope, spare canvas, and medical supplies. Skilled carpenters inspected the captured vessel's futtocks, keelson, and planking, deciding whether the ship deserved to join the pirate fleet or be stripped and abandoned. Prisoners faced constant uncertainty. Some were released on deserted islands with little food or fresh water. Others were forced into pirate service because experienced seamen were always valuable, while captains who resisted too fiercely sometimes became examples meant to intimidate future victims. Disease remained equally terrifying. Wounds from splintered oak frequently became infected in the tropical heat. Contaminated water spread dysentery, and scurvy slowly weakened entire crews during long voyages. Even those who escaped an attack alive often carried permanent scars, proving that surviving a pirate boarding did not always mean surviving the voyage itself. The terror extended far beyond the open sea, because piracy poisoned nearly every link in the Atlantic world. Coastal villages watched unfamiliar sails with growing dread, knowing that a ship entering the harbor might be seeking fresh water one moment and plundering warehouses the next. Plantation owners strengthened storehouses, merchants hid silver beneath stone floors, and governors rushed to repair neglected batteries, guarding narrow entrances. Yet even masonry forts could not guarantee safety if their powder magazines ran low or their garrisons were weakened by tropical disease. Pirate captains carefully studied tides, prevailing winds, harbor soundings, and defensive layouts before attacking. They preferred surprise over prolonged bombardment, but when cannon became necessary, every detail mattered. Bronze culverins and demi-culverins were swabbed after each discharge to extinguish glowing embers inside the bore before another cartridge containing black powder, roughly 75% saltpeter, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur, was rammed home with oak and ash staves. As ignition flashed through the touch hole, rapidly expanding gases accelerated the iron shot down the barrel until it struck timber with tremendous kinetic force, crushing oak fibers, tearing through futtocks, and filling the air with razor-sharp splinters that wounded soldiers even without a direct hit. Meanwhile, civilians trapped inside the settlement carried powder barrels weighing nearly 50 pounds, hauled water to extinguish fires started by incendiary rounds, and dragged wounded defenders away from collapsing parapets. Hurricanes posed an equally relentless enemy. Entire pirate squadrons disappeared beneath mountainous seas, anchors parted, masts snapped, and overloaded hulls rolled until cargo shifted violently, ripping internal frames apart. In the Golden Age of Piracy, the danger came not only from pirates themselves, but from warships, storms, disease, betrayal, hunger, and the unforgiving ocean that claimed victims without ever raising a black flag. Even pirate crews themselves discovered that joining the Brotherhood offered no guarantee of survival. Articles of agreement promised equal shares of captured prizes and compensation for wounds. Yet those written rules could not eliminate greed, fear, or suspicion. After successful raids, arguments erupted over gold coin, silver plate, bolts of silk, barrels of indigo, and gemstones hidden inside false cargo containers. A sailor accused of concealing treasure risked severe punishment, while captains who appeared too authoritarian could be voted out or abandoned on isolated shores. Constant maintenance consumed every voyage. During careening, ships were deliberately heeled onto one side so crews could scrape away thick layers of barnacles, algae, and shipworm before applying fresh pine tar and replacing damaged oak planks fastened with hand-forged iron spikes. Without such work, speed declined dramatically, making escape from Royal Navy frigates nearly impossible. Naval commanders steadily improved their tactics, deploying faster sloops and well-armed escorts capable of matching pirate vessels under favorable winds. Rewards for captured pirates encouraged informers in every colonial port, and merchants willingly reported suspicious ships in exchange for protection or money. Safe harbors became increasingly scarce as governors closed once friendly anchorages under pressure from London, Madrid, and Paris. Men who had once celebrated enormous fortunes soon found themselves hunted across the Caribbean, sleeping with loaded flintlock pistols beside their hammocks, never certain whether the next sail appearing at dawn carried a merchant prize, a heavily armed man of war, or former companions prepared to betray them for a royal reward. Final by the early 1720s, the Golden Age of Piracy had become a world where no one remained safe. Merchants feared the horizon, naval officers hunted without mercy, coastal towns prepared for raids, and even pirates distrusted their own comrades. Storms, disease, betrayal, execution, and relentless pursuit destroyed countless lives, proving that the greatest terror of the pirate era was not hidden treasure, but the certainty that every voyage could become the last.